Think about how society usually treats marriage. I mean, um, it is essentially treated like the default operating system of human life.
Yeah, the absolute baseline.
Right. It is the baseline software you're supposed to install to make sure everything runs smoothly, securely, and, well, normally. But today we are diving into a provocative manifesto that argues this operating system is actually malware.
That is quite the comparison.
It really is. It argues that marriage is just running in the background, eating up all your CPU, and completely draining your battery.
It is a massive, just a massive reframing of how we view human connection. So the source we're looking at today is a deeply unconventional 2023 essay. It is titled, "The Biggest Internal Friction in Life is in the Relationship Between Husband and Wife."
Wow, that is a title.
Right. It was authored by Shofeng and edited by Kinyu. And this piece takes the traditional cornerstone of society and just flips it entirely upside down.
Yeah.
I mean, the premise here is not just that marriage can be difficult. The core argument is that the institution of marriage is the ultimate destroyer of human potential, creativity, and productivity.
And right up front, we want to make our mission in this deep dive incredibly clear to you, the listener. We are exploring these ideas totally impartially.
Yeah, we are not endorsing a specific lifestyle here.
Exactly. Nor are we telling you to go out and cancel your anniversary plans. We are just acting as your guides to understand the architecture of a very radical argument. Because whether you agree with the premise or strongly reject it, the way this essay builds its case is it's fascinating. It begins by looking straight at the monumental weight of the institution it is trying to tear down.
Which is a really smart rhetorical move. The essay does not pretend marriage is some fringe, easily dismissed concept.
Yeah.
It acknowledges how deeply entrenched it is in our global DNA. I mean, for generations, moralists have spent their entire lives defending the virtue of the marital bond. Sociologists publish endless volumes on how to maintain and optimize it.
And governments rely on it.
Exactly. They provide legal frameworks, tax benefits, protections for it because, well, it operates as the primary engine for social stability.
There is actually this folk saying, quoted in the text, that captures this cultural weight perfectly.
Yeah.
The saying goes, better to knock down 10 temples than wreck one marriage.
That is intense.
It is. We all know the reverence given to a temple or a sacred space. So to argue that destroying 10 of those physical structures is a lesser offense than severing one marital bond, it really highlights the almost divine status we assign to the husband and wife relationship.
It illustrates the macro view perfectly. Society reveres the institution. But then this text contrasts that immense societal reverence with a starkly pragmatic, almost cold calculation of its hidden costs.
Now, a crucial nuance here is that the essay does concede that happy marriages exist.
Yeah, it does. The argument is not that every single person on Earth is actively miserable. The text actually expresses a longing for that ideal scenario. You know, the couple who has known each other since childhood, growing old together, maintaining a pure love for a lifetime.
But it compares the reality of finding that to a botanical anomaly. A truly effortlessly happy marriage is described as finding ironclad orchids growing on trees.
Right. It is technically possible in nature, but exceptionally rare. And that rarity is the pivot point for the core thesis, because despite this beautiful romantic ideal we are sold, the practical experience of human society over thousands of years reveals a much harsher reality.
That it's a huge drain.
Yeah. The essay asserts that the relationship between husband and wife is fundamentally the most time-consuming and energy-consuming dynamic in all of human existence.
It is wild to think about relationships as an economic drain. Usually we think of productivity and energy management in the context of our careers or the workplace, but this essay is actually applying factory floor efficiency metrics straight to our living rooms.
It really is.
It frames the care and maintenance of another human being, not as love, but as a barrier to self-actualization.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, human energy is treated as a finite natural resource here. To build this argument, the text introduces a hierarchy of productive forces.
Okay, lay that out for us.
So the very first and most important productive force is what is called the greatest creator. This represents the baseline regenerative capacity of nature.
So things like the environment, natural resources, the weather.
Precisely. The essay uses rain as an example. Without that first productive force, without rain, human capability means absolutely nothing.
Right. It doesn't matter how smart or innovative we are.
Exactly. If the baseline natural resources are absent, it is a dead end. Establishing this hierarchy is important because it proves that human energy is finite and subordinate to nature. We only have so much to work with.
Which brings us to the second productive force, which is us,
Yeah.
human beings.
And this is where the critique sharpens into a blade. The argument proposes that when a person's limited production capacity is consumed by matters completely unrelated to creation.
Like maintaining relationships.
Right. Specifically, the endless maintenance of interpersonal relationships. It results in the greatest possible repression and destruction of productivity. You are squandering a vital, finite resource.
The part that really struck me was how the text challenges the reader to quantify this. There is a specific prompt directed at anyone who has been married for more than 10 years.
Ah, yes, the calculator challenge.
Yes, the calculator challenge. The prompt says, take a literal calculator and add up where your time and energy have gone over your lifetime. Look at a 24-hour day. Once you subtract sleeping, eating, and working, how much of your remaining autonomous time is actually spent on true innovation or creation?
And the inevitable conclusion the essay drives you toward is, well, almost none. Because that surplus energy is heavily occupied with the spiritual and emotional upkeep of the marital bond.
The language used here is incredibly potent. It states that people are firmly held hostage by the relationship.
Held hostage. It's strong.
Here is where it gets really interesting to me. The author is essentially saying, you cannot be an innovator if your bandwidth is permanently hijacked.
Right.
It is like trying to launch a groundbreaking startup, but your sole angel investor demands 90% of your daily attention just to feel emotionally secure.
Just to keep the funding alive.
Exactly. You never actually get to build the product because you are too busy managing the investor's moods.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism of the emotional drain, and the text takes that concept of hijack bandwidth even further. It makes the bold claim that upon getting married, a person loses half of their personal freedom.
Wow.
Yeah, and this loss of freedom is then explicitly equated to being a slave.
Okay, that is a highly charged word.
Right.
Equating a modern marriage to slavery feels like a massive leap.
It is a massive leap, but it makes sense within the strict, almost mathematical logic of the text. The definition of a slave in this specific context is someone who does not possess the physical or mental autonomy to innovate.
I see.
The essay asks, if your thoughts, your body, and your time are constantly tethered to the maintenance of a partnership, where does the ability to create something entirely new come from? True innovation requires an absolute surplus of energy and focus.
And they even bring financial freedom into that equation. If your property, your income, and your investments are tied up in a joint venture, you lack the material conditions required to take massive creative risks.
You're completely locked in.
Right, just maintaining the basic expenditures of a shared life. The mortgage, the cars, the groceries, and eventually dealing with shared aging and sickness. It is enough to completely exhaust a person's baseline capacity.
Now, to ensure this does not remain a high-level philosophical debate about abstract productive forces, the focus zooms all the way in.
Down to the day-to-day.
Exactly. The grand theories about freedom and economics are grounded in the micro-frictions of daily life. The argument relies on a series of very tangible, everyday compromises to prove that this energy drain is real and constant.
Yeah, these examples are incredibly specific. They ask the reader a series of rapid-fire questions about their daily autonomy. For those who are married, they ask, do you truly have the right to dispose of your own income however you see fit?
Can you just eat whatever you want for dinner without consulting someone else?
Right. Can you go wherever you want during a holiday, or decide to travel completely alone without it causing a massive argument?
There's also a heavy emphasis on social and intellectual restrictions. The text asks if you have the right to frequently chat and drink tea with classmates of the opposite sex.
Or, crucially, do you have the freedom to talk to people of the opposite sex about deep ideas late into the night? The implication is that marriage creates an artificial, stifling boundary around intellectual and social exploration.
Driven purely by proprietary norms or, underlying jealousy.
My favorite example they use is what I'll call the midnight inspiration scenario.
Oh, this one is so relatable.
Right. Imagine you suddenly get struck by a brilliant idea at 2 in the morning. Do you have the right to just turn on the lights, open your laptop, and start furiously typing on the keyboard?
In a shared bedroom, definitely not.
No. You have to tiptoe out into the hallway or go to the kitchen, or worse, you just try to hold on to the thought in the dark and let the idea die because you don't want to wake them up.
Beyond those physical and logistical constraints, the essay explores the immense emotional tax. It asks, do you dare not take care of your spouse's emotions?
When they are in a terrible mood, do you dare to say no to dealing with it?
When they are sick, do you dare not take care of them?
The word dare is doing so much heavy lifting in those questions. It shifts the entire dynamic from voluntary love to an inescapable mandatory obligation. It implies that you are operating out of fear of the friction that will occur if you don't comply.
Exactly. And notice how the text synthesizes all of this. It is not focusing on massive life tragedies. It isn't talking about infidelity or dramatic betrayals.
It's the little things.
It explicitly points out that the true cost of marriage is found in these calculable daily drawbacks. It is the endless string of concessions required in trivial matters that consumes massive amounts of time. The accumulation of these tiny, everyday frictions is what constitutes the biggest internal conflict in a person's life.
But wait, humans are fundamentally social creatures. We compromise all the time.
Sure, we do.
We compromise with our roommates, our colleagues, our own children. Is the author just complaining about the basic reality of sharing space with other human beings? Because if the argument is just, other people are exhausting, well, that isn't really groundbreaking.
Fair point.
The real question is there an actual alternative to this? If we scrap the operating system of marriage entirely, what replaces it?
That is the pivotal transition in the text. It moves from critiquing the current system to proposing a radical utopian alternative.
Okay, let's hear it.
But to get the reader to even entertain that alternative, the essay first has to dismantle the underlying mental constraint that keeps people locked in the system. It targets the ingrained societal belief that dictates, upon growing up, every male should take a wife and every female should take a husband.
Right, the assumption that this path is just the natural order of things.
Yeah.
We assume it is right, and because of this constraint in our thinking, we fail to realize that life could actually be structured differently.
And to back this up, the text brings in a surprisingly theological justification.
A heavenly precedent.
Exactly. The rhetorical question posed is, who has ever heard that everyone in heaven is married? To anchor this, the text quotes Jesus Christ directly, noting the scripture that says, in heaven they neither marry nor are given in marriage.
So the argument is, look, even in the ultimate ideal state of human existence, the divine afterlife marriage does not exist. It is completely absent from paradise. So why are we forcing this friction-heavy institution on ourselves down here on Earth?
That theological concept is used as a bridge to introduce an earthly alternative. The essay asks the reader directly, will life really be better if men and women simply do not marry?
And the answer?
The answer provided is a resounding, uncompromising yes. And this is where we are introduced to a concept called the second home, which was created by a movement or community known as Lifechanyuan.
We should probably contextualize this. Based on the text, Lifechanyuan isn't just a philosophical thought experiment. It is presented as a tangible, communal living structure, a literal second home where people live outside the bounds of traditional marriage.
Yes, it is framed as an active, ongoing experiment in alternative living, and the claims made about it are massive.
Like what?
Well, the essay states that life in the second home isn't just slightly better than traditional marriage, it claims it is at least 10 times better. Furthermore, it asserts that this communal, marriage-free lifestyle has been tested on Earth for over 10 years, resulting in a 100% successful experience.
100% success rate over a decade. Those are the kind of bold, uncompromising statistics that usually make my alarm bells go off.
Oh, absolutely.
Because practically speaking, my mind immediately goes to the logistics of survival. If no one is married and everyone is just living in this communal second home who is doing the dishes every night, what happens to the kids?
Right, who handles the day-to-day mess?
Exactly. How are male and female relationships managed if exclusivity is gone? What happens when people get old or when someone gets chronically ill? You can't just wish away the logistics of human survival.
Well, the essay actually anticipates those exact logistical doubts. It lists out the very questions you just raised. It acknowledges that the reader is likely sitting there wondering who will do the housework if they can still have children, how sexual freedom is managed, and what the safety net is for sickness and old age.
So what is the answer? How does the second home actually solve the dishes and the sick days?
Interestingly, the text itself does not provide the granular mechanics of the solution. It does not lay out a chore wheel or a healthcare policy.
Really? Nothing.
Nope. Instead, it offers a sweeping reassurance. It states directly, I want to tell you that I have thought about all your questions, and there is a perfect program to solve them.
A perfect program.
Wow.
That sounds incredibly familiar.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like signing a modern terms of service agreement without reading the fine print.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
You are being asked to hand over your personal data, or in this case, your entire lifestyle, your exclusivity, and your traditional safety nets, in exchange for the promise of a completely frictionless user experience. You don't get to see the underlying code. You just have to trust that the developers have built a perfect program.
What's fascinating here is the psychology of this pitch.
Uh-huh.
Utopian promises always rely on this exact framework. They highlight the hyper-specific, concrete, daily frictions you are currently suffering through, like not being able to type on your laptop at midnight.
Yeah.
And they offer to trade those concrete problems for abstract promises of salvation. The vagueness of the perfect program is actually a feature, not a bug. It allows the reader to project their own ideal version of a frictionless life onto the second home.
It is a masterful psychological pivot. The essay starts with cold, calculable critiques of productivity, time management, and energy drains. It asks you to literally use a calculator to do the math on your love life. But by the end, it abandons the calculator entirely and shifts to a highly emotional promise.
The tone shifts completely. The text issues a final, impassioned plea directed at unmarried men and women, and specifically targets divorced individuals who might be hesitant about re-entering the dating pool.
What's the core message there?
The message is, stop getting married. Do not waste the majority of your finite life energy on maintaining special, exclusive relationships. Stop consuming your wisdom and vitality chasing after traditional markers of success, like money and societal status.
It is a call to abandon the traditional rat race on every front, both the professional pursuit of wealth and the personal pursuit of a marital bond. It urges you to step out of the system and enter the second home created by Lifechanyuan.
And the final promise it leaves you with is pure emotion. It promises that if you make this leap, if you go to the second home, you will be moved to tears in the end.
The juxtaposition there is wild. You begin the text frustrated by the mundane reality of a grumpy spouse, and you end with the promise of being moved to tears by the overwhelming relief of a perfect communal existence.
It's quite a journey.
So it all boils down to a profound trade. The author is asking you to trade the private internal friction of a one-on-one marriage for the structured communal freedom of the second home. The core promise is that by giving up the exclusivity of the marital bond, you reclaim your CPU, your bandwidth, and your ultimate freedom to innovate.
That is the architectural core of the entire manifesto. It demands that you calculate the true, energetic cost of your most intimate relationships. Then, it asks if you are willing to imagine a reality where that specific drain is entirely removed and replaced by a flawless alternative social program.
As we promised at the start, our goal here was to lay out this journey for you impartially. We've examined this uncompromising view that marriage is fundamentally a productivity-destroying internal friction, and we've looked objectively at the proposed utopian alternative in Lifechanyuan.
And analyze the psychology behind why that kind of pitch is so compelling. This deep dive is about exploring challenging ideas and understanding how different people view the basic architecture of human life.
Absolutely.
And for you listening right now, the value of unpacking a text like this, regardless of whether you embrace its conclusions or completely reject them, is how it forces you to audit your own life.
It invites you to look inward.
Exactly. It invites you to ask, where does your own daily internal friction lie? How much of your vital energy is spent merely maintaining your current reality versus creating something new? Are there micro frictions in your routines that you simply accept as natural, but which might actually be draining your deepest potential?
That audit is such a valuable takeaway. But I want to leave you with one final thought, a new angle to ponder that builds on everything we've explored today. The argument we just unpacked claims that human connection, compromise, and the daily friction of a relationship drain our capacity for innovation.
Right. It views the friction of another person as a glitch in the system.
But it makes you wonder, what if the exact opposite is true? What if the friction of dealing with another human being, with all their moods, their needs, and their midnight disruptions, isn't a glitch that stops creativity, but the very spark that forces us to grow, adapt, and innovate in the first place? Maybe we don't create in spite of the friction. Maybe we create because of it. Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.